Good evening and welcome to Health Exposures. I'm Deborah Arneson, your host for the evening, and with us tonight we have Mr. Kurt Hill, who is a marvelous energy therapist. Kurt, thank you for joining us again. It's great having you back.
Thank you for having me, Deborah. It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Well, tonight, folks, we're going to be talking about a couple things. We're talking about our hectic lives and maintaining balance, which is so very difficult for many of us to do. Kurt is also going to teach us about visualization and stress reduction through techniques that you have mastered. Okay, so we're real excited to learn a little bit more about what we can do to maintain and center ourselves. So Kurt, thanks for joining us. So, hey, maintaining balance. This is not an easy task, not with the furious pace that most of us live, you included.
That's true,
but
absolutely.
You are very balanced, I have to say. Of all the people I know in my life on a personal level, you are always happy. You are always like just like that. It's very impressive. So tell us, how do you go about doing this?
You know, the truth is, Deborah, life is about choices, and you can literally choose your emotion. We often talk in terms of blame, and constantly you'll hear people, especially with couples or people who have situations that aren't pleasant at work, they talk in terms of, this person made me feel this way, or my wife or husband caused this emotion, when actually you're at the helm. You're the captain. You're the person that decides each morning how you're going to feel. So if this were your last day on earth and you had no guarantee of tomorrow, how would you want to feel? How would you want to go about the day? And that's why I choose happiness. And besides, it's a more empowering energy.
Right. That's marvelous.
Oh, thank you.
Choosing happiness, that's a great way to put it and a great way to look at it. So you can wake up and decide you're going to do that, and you can also wake up and decide you're going to be miserable.
That's true.
So, I mean, there are plenty of those out there.
A lot of those come to me in my
practice.
practice.
We're here to encourage all of you to choose happiness. Okay. So tell me this, visualization is one technique that you greatly encourage.
Yes.
And how long does one need every day to employ a simple technique, or is it not so simple?
You know, for our television viewers and our audience, many people talk in terms of visualization, both creative and other forms of visualization, and there are a myriad of ways to do it. I try to, first of all, tell people to relax and pick the simple, and simply think in terms of what you want. What's the emotion that you're feeling? So as a result, one has to be in touch with their feelings, which is easier said than done.
Because
now,
we're so busy.
We are so busy.
So who has time?
And I found that it's easier for a female to be in touch with her sensitivity than it seems for males. Males tend to go into the academic. They'll give you a good elucidation about, well, actually, the feeling I'm getting has to deal with, as a woman saying, I'm happy or I'm sad. When you get into creative visualization, you're looking at, what is my intent? What do I want out of the moment, out of the day, out of the event? And then you take a stern look at it, and you cover all bases. Now, I hear this often when people come in, they'll say, well, I'm using creative visualization. I looked at it and I thought about it, and I went there and it didn't happen like I wanted it. And I said, well, simple, what were you wearing? And they'll say, what do you mean? I had to wear something? I said, well, isn't that what you normally do when you go somewhere, I hope?
Sure.
You know? So literally, in creative visualization, you have to look at every detail as though you're already there. And you literally walk through it.
In your mind's eye.
In your mind's eye. I want colors. I want to know if there are flowers on the table. I want to know what you're saying, how you felt, where you're standing, sitting, going into the specifics, spending time not only with yourself, but with the emotions that you're feeling and the interaction.
So it's really almost like a projection.
Absolutely.
You run yourself through, it's like putting on a reel and watching a projector on a screen, shoot up an image of yourself in motion and acting out what it is you want from a situation.
Absolutely. You know, it's phenomenal too, because I was telling one person the other day they couldn't quite get it. They came in for some treatment, and I said, you know, think in terms of it like taking a bucket of water and throwing it across a room, and you're only going to stay within the path of the water. And when you stop, you're going to turn back. So basically, when you've seen the picture, when you've viewed something, like say for instance a job interview or a romantic interlude of some kind, You then the various when it comes up, you're literally going through it in a perfunctory manner because you've already seen it, you've felt it, you've experienced it, and you know it to be real. The interesting thing is, you know when you should be dubious about it too, because you're looking at it in your mind's eye, you're experiencing it, and you're getting the soul of it, which is another situation.
So when you feel that doubt, the best thing to do, of course, is heed that kind of instinctive warning.
Absolutely.
So
Pay
perhaps
attention.
it's something that you need to go through with and experience it and realize if it doesn't happen, perhaps it's not supposed to happen.
Mm-hmm. And it's important also, I might point out here, that it's important to know the difference between your wants and your needs. Is this something you need, or is this something you want?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this something that you really could care less about, but you're just experimenting to see if this creative visualization thing actually works? And you'll get a lot of those too, because amusing as it is, we are a very informed society now when it comes to homeopathy and alternative medicine and creative visualization. We know all the jargon, so we come in and we talk to people and they get enthusiastic and they think that you're really communicating when actually you're just tossing words out into the arena and there's no belief system there. When you experience something, and this is the fascinating thing, and it's something also to take in consideration about television, the mind, when it sees pictures, doesn't know if it's happening in reality or if it's something that you actually viewed. So when you're viewing, make sure that it's exactly what you want and is what you need. So that's something else.
That's really fascinating. So tell me this, what about centering? If people simply need to center, you know, one of the things that I see in my practice, and I know you do as well, and I'm guilty myself, just as many of my clients or patients are, I have trouble just like, you know, just taking a minute to take a minute. And, you know, I mean, what I'd love for you to share with our viewing audience today is simple techniques that they can implement or utilize to take a minute to center. You know, and I think it takes like baby steps, and you've given me some wonderful tips just on light color, you know, just thinking about a color to like just, you know, armor myself or just, you know, to put out some good energy. And it works. I mean, it was interesting. The other day I was in the store and I think my blood sugar might have been dropping a little bit. I'd like to think it's that, but everything kind of got like woozy, you know, and I just went, and I did that technique you taught me with the visualization, and it was like whew, front and center.
Absolutely.
It was amazing. I just thought green, you know, green healing, and just I did this little thing, you know, I laid my hands on the counter, and I was just, boom, right back to center. It was great.
That's grand.
So I hope
That's
you will
grand.
impart this to some of our viewing audience.
It's marvelous when you get someone who is in the field to corroborate things of that sort, because there's so many charlatans out that certainly say a great deal about techniques, and people are insouciant about whether they work or not. They do work, that's first of all. But before I tell you about that, share that, let me segue into something that I think is important to note. First of all, you have to love yourself. You've got to care. You can put a lot of energy out towards others. You can talk in terms about creative visualization. You can talk in terms about focusing on something. But if you really don't care and you're not interested in making that connection, then it'll never really happen. It's an exercise in futility. When you're feeling, you first of all have to stop and identify what it really is. So which means that you have to remove yourself from the ego side of yourself and plug into the spiritual. A very interesting factor here. Most people talk in terms of an auric field around people being about 8 feet around in diameter. But in actuality, there's a spirit field. It's 3 miles radius. And it's fascinating. We think we are humans having a spiritual experience when actually it's the reverse. We are spirits having a human experience. And we're here to learn lessons and take the data and let go of the pain. And what happens a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with what we call blockage or lack of energy, people are holding on to the pain, they're holding on to the emotion, or they don't have time to deal with what they've already stored in the body.
So they keep storing.
Absolutely.
Very scary.
It is very scary.
Very scary.
More so because of the
Years
fact
of
that
stuff.
busy people, and all of us fall into this category, it's not that we're not interested, it's the fact that we're going on with our lives, an event happens, and we forget that our body records each and every incident that
That's
occurs
right.
each day, each moment.
It's a lot of storage.
Absolutely.
It's
And
amazing.
one of the fascinating things I know in my practice, I'll see some people and I'll press a particular pressure point, and they'll start talking about an event with this particular individual. He was 55 when he was 5 years old. And he'll say, you know, I thought I was done with that. And I said, intellectually, you probably were, but emotionally and inside of your body, you were not.
So is this something people will come to realize when they take time to center or to balance?
Absolutely.
You know, when they just do
start
like a
identifying-
minute or two technique to just, you know, focus?
You
You
know,
start to let go of this stuff?
It's amazing that emotions and occurrences have particular patterns. I've had people who come in, and I'll talk in terms of creative visualizations, and I'll listen for metaphors that they speak. And I'll ask them to try to think in terms of what was going on in today's events that probably they could think back to 7 and under, that some feeling was close.
It's kind of like being your own psychotherapist in a
Absolutely.
way as well. It really is. It's like taking time to figure it out, taking time to be quiet. You know, I'll tell you when I do that, this sounds really corny, but when I shop, and I don't shop hardly ever, but when I shop, it's like my mind goes blank, and it's like I process. It's art painting a wall or raking leaves. Those are things that really help me to unwind and to process. Driving in a car, you know, no music on.
Oh, that's
so I
nice.
mean, everybody
That's
has
nice.
different things they can do.
Ways to relax.
But how often do you get to drive in a car for 2 hours? Not
true.
very often, and I don't rake leaves, but maybe once or twice a year. So you need to come up with these techniques that you're going to share with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, many of us don't even breathe, and that's a technique. We don't even think about it.
Well,
I'll
let's
ask
do
people-
that first.
I ask people all the time, and rather than have everyone grab pens and pencils and say, "What's the position to sit in? Is there a yoga position? Is this Kundalini? What are we basically dealing with?" Just take a deep breath through the nose and completely through your body. Feel it go completely through your body, expanding the rib cage rather. Now, once you do that, you'll suddenly feel life enter into your being. You've expanded, and you release it. And I generally say, release with a sigh, which is a natural feeling. And when you use from an onomatopoeia standpoint, the sound, it's a relaxing kind of feeling. Now, according to studies, they tell us that in Aramaic, when the Our Father was being asked, that it was actually, the term was Abaun, which was the, in Aramaic is the word God, which is the most
So
natural and
Abayun
relaxing.
is a great stress releaser or
Absolutely.
a breath out.
That's right.
Abayun,
That's it,
like
just,
that. It's kind of soothing. Abayun. It is. It's like,
Well, you know, the interesting thing is
Kinda like an
that
ohm.
Aramaic and Hebrew and some other languages are sound vibrational and gets into vibration because that's the next thing in vibrating. When you're releasing, let sound go with it. And there are many terms.
Close your office door.
That's
Okay. Let them wonder what you're
what is
doing
going on in there. That's
yeah.
right. That's right. And you talk in terms of color. Now, everyone, I think we're almost frightened about the white light. It came through my head and down to my feet and all these sort of things. But colors in the world have effects on us. If we just look around in our natural environment and we see a green plant
What
or a
about
lovely
this
red
color?
rose, isn't that marvelous? This is
Yes.
lavender, and lavender is a spiritual color. And you normally see great spiritual benevolent people with lavender around them, even in paintings. Well, if you concentrate on that color in your mind's eye and just see it, and if you can't, people get nervous about I'm not trained or I'm not a master, I have to go to classes.
So just close your
visualize
eye
it. Yes.
and just picture the color green or lavender.
That's right.
And what does lavender signify?
It signifies a spiritual connection with a higher power, a higher being, and also within yourself. You're contacting the you of you.
So it's
which
very
gives
healing.
you peace. It is very healing. But I want to go back to green because you mentioned it a couple of times, and I know that there are many people who are unsettled either with anxiety or depressive symptoms or aches and pains that don't seem to be extirpating themselves out of their body functions. Green is a very healing color, and in many people, the heart chakra, which is here, and there are 7 chakras starting from the top of the head to just under the belly button, is generally depicted with green around it. And if you think in terms of your heart, because we can feel that, and let that go around you in spots that you need to feel strong or healed or nurtured, and you actually see it, and there's no special way, even if you see it as a cartoon in your head happening or something, or you, however you can visualize it, because visualization is a personal thing.
Right.
I tell people, easy, don't worry about how I'm doing it. What's your method?
You know what I start with? I start with, I love fir trees. I love Christmas trees. I just like forests, and I picture a forest, and that's how I start with the color green. So I cut to that in my mind's eye.
Oh, that's good.
And then the green just takes over, you know, just picture it. So looking at a plant could probably do it, or focusing on green would do it.
Focusing on green, but remember you want to bring it into your body and spread it around to your areas.
Okay.
And when was the last time when you were looking at something or doing something that you brought a color in and you said, my hand, up my body, down to my other
Never.
hand.
I never
and
have time.
actually seeing your entire body, it takes
Sure.
less than 5 minutes
Does it?
of your
To
time
just picture that?
to picture your entire body and something going through it that you're doing for yourself.
And then breathe at the same time.
And then taking a breath and let out the,
See, I'm up to about a half a minute.
oh, that's very
Does
good.
that count?
Oh, that counts. We'll take it.
I don't have time for 5 minutes. What am I going to do?
We'll take it. We'll take it. That's actually very healing. And then ask yourself after you do it, how do I feel?
And that's your clue.
That's not only
About-
your clue, but that's your gauge. And if you're on a sad channel, let's say, for instance, we all want to be talk show hosts, it seems, in today's world.
Not me. I'm out of here. I want you to be the host. I'll be the guest.
Oh, good, good. Okay, I'll visualize that now. We all think that we have to be in a certain mood and a certain frame of mind, and we don't allow ourselves soul experiences.
Right.
And soul does not need explanation for why we feel a certain way, but just the fact that we're feeling that particular way. Ego needs an explanation.
Right.
But sometimes you're just feeling that because you need to know that kind of data. And it's important to take time with the self to know why you're feeling that way, how you're feeling about whatever is going on, and who are the players. And if you stopped to take time to see where you fit in this situation, and as a result, you have to look inside and get the visualization. And where's it going? Where do you want it to go? What would you change if you could about anything?
So if one is feeling sad, Kurt, let me get this straight, and you need to get to the root of that, and then you can release it.
Absolutely. If you don't release it, it's going to be stored in the body. And if it's
Somewhere.
stored
It
in
will
the body,
manifest
that's
itself
right.
somewhere.
That's
Okay.
right.
And
And,
usually the weakest spot, or
Usually the weakest spot, and sometimes I tell people their body's been on overload when they just can't seem to understand my explanations. I'll say, well, think in terms of your body being a giant warehouse for the things that are going on in your life. And after a point, you got a little foreman running around in there, and he's saying to your head, hey, listen, I got no more room. You know, we got to, it's coming, so I'm going to have
Stack
to
it
start
where?
pushing it out here. And as a result, there's heart disease or strokes or anxiety attacks or breaks and aches and pains, depression. And as soon as we get depression, we start talking in terms of Prozac or something. to
This
get
is so
away from it.
interesting because, you know, honestly, so many people deal with depression or, you know, waves of it in their life, not necessarily every day, but they might have episodes, you know, once or twice a month or something. And when you think about depression setting in, it may very well have to do that. There isn't balance, you know, the mind, body, spirit. I mean, we're all really good at, like, working our minds. Everybody's working out these days, or a lot of people are, or they're feeding their bodies, you know,
That's
or
right.
maybe not the right things, but they're working those two segments. But they're missing that one component, which is their spiritual healing or nurturing. And to do that, it means taking time to be by yourself. I mean, we're so inundated in computers and electronics and
That's right.
shows and television. I mean, how many people go home at night and just don't turn on any noise? I find myself, as I get older and older, not turning on any noise. And I love music. But it's like I'll go 8 hours at work and go, I didn't turn on the music today. It's hysterical. I'm like, either I'm turning into my grandmother, who can't hear it anyway, or I'm becoming more at peace with peace.
Peace with peace.
Yes, and I think it's really important to get rid of things like depression, to take time to be by yourself and to center yourself, as you're saying.
We talk in terms of a harmony, a music within the self. There's one other thing, and I know we're pressed for time, but I'd like to say that when you're dealing with a visualization, and let's say, for instance, anger is something that a lot of people, because of our society, the way we are working force, you can't always walk up to your boss and say, I'd like to give you a piece of my mind. And so there, as a result, we tend to look for the euphemistic angles, and people tend to come in with shoulder pain and stress through the throat, which is the communicative chakra, or they complain about TMJ syndrome of some kind. And I'll tell them, well, you're holding back. And they said, well, it's the greater part of wisdom. And I'll say, well,
it's a greater part of stress.
That's right. Visualize yourself at the end of the evening releasing that stress and anger in some kind of color.
Right.
Literally, I'll tell them, think in terms of it being like water all over you. And what you do when you have water, you try to shake it off. You don't have to worry about studying Tai Chi or saying, I'll never get healthy because I can't afford to do all these things that they're telling me to in alternative healing. There are personal things ritualistically that you can do to save yourself. Just visualize it coming off, seeing it leaving your body.
So just cleanse yourself every day and just kind of discard it.
Discard
and
it.
just get rid of it. Shake
Rebuke
like a dog.
it, you know, and it's gone. And it's very easy to do. Keep it simple. Believe it. And do it on a regular basis. Spend time with self and look at things and see them in the beginning, the middle, and the end.
That's good advice. That's very good advice. Tell me this, Kurt. People are always, I'm sure, coming up with the same question to you. What do I do to reduce stress in my life? Okay, so is there like one technique? I mean, I know that you mentioned to me at one point that I needed something that I could center on in my office.
Yes.
You know, whether it was like those chimes that you mentioned, but is there something people can do with nothing other than their mind, or to lay in a position, or to sit back in their chair? You know, the breathing combined with that can reduce like a stressful moment or a situation, or they're going into a meeting with their boss.
Absolutely.
And they're like, I don't like my boss, and he's in there with all the other bosses, and oh no, it's me alone. So what would you suggest that someone do to reduce their stress?
There are several things. Let me key in on one. Let's say if there's a stressful situation that you're walking into, and you need to be relaxed because you're going into an area where you need to negotiate, and it wouldn't behoove you to be in an argumentative frame, or to be in a situation where you should be improving the situation, but because of what you're about to say, because of the stress, may exacerbate matters. I have told people to put things as simple as chimes in their office, where they can hear bells or chimes go off, and it changes the vibration. You see, the body is not a solid. We think in terms of it as. It's a vibrational energy slowed down. And the musicians of old used to always say, lighten up, you know, bad vibes. And we'd laugh at that kind of jargon, but now,
There's meaning in it.
absolutely there's meaning to it. You can literally do chimes. You can hold a green object in your hand and think of what it feels to you in cooling off your area. There's one thing, and I'll do it very quickly, and that is, I've told some people at night, think in terms of starting from your heart chakra, which is loving, expand an 8-foot green bubble all around you, and line it in gold, which is a protecting area or coating. Now, you can't do this when you're walking up to your boss or in whatever situation, I'm going to line this, I'm going to do this. So at night, make a deal with yourself. Say that every time I get in a stressful situation, I know I'm going to walk up to someone who's going to literally suck my energy or put me in a very uncompromising situation, I'll say the term engage, and this green will just expand.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
you'll be surprised. and project that color towards the individual that you feel you're having the difficulty with.
And that just kind of soothes their savage soul?
Absolutely.
Does
It's
it?
amazing.
That's
it's
great.
amazing. Now, that's one I'd love for people to try. I've told that to people, even
Okay.
when they're about to walk up to someone who's threatening them, to start projecting an energy.
And you can do
agreement.
this sitting down,
Yes.
right? You can do this standing up. You can do this lying down. You can do this while you're on the phone.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's very
Absolutely.
cool. It's a very good idea. Now, what about breathing? That's something that most Americans don't do well, especially women, right?
Yes.
They have a smaller chest capacity and they're just not able to take in as much oxygen. How important is breathing in reducing stress?
Breathing is essential.
I'd say so.
Breathing
Let's
is-
hold our breath and see what happens.
I'll play straight man for this. Breathing is essential in that you're bringing in a
Correct
life
breathing.
force
Yeah.
inside of the body. And you need to, we tend to do short breaths when we're talking, when we're moving, we're holding our breaths. When it's almost uncanny when you stop people who go, you know, when was the last time I breathed? I haven't taken a deep breath.
Oh boy, I'm doing
So-
it now. Feels
So
good.
literally when you send it in, remember you're oxygenating parts of your body. You're even removing stressful situations. Sometimes when you hold a nodule that's, we call it a neuromuscular trigger point, you literally breathe into it, it gets fresh oxygen, and you can hear it sort of pop. it lets go. So
Oh, that's good. So if you have like a tense area, grab it and do some breathing and
That's right,
focus
just
on
breathe.
bringing
That's
oxygen
right.
to that area,
for
like
about
your
the
neck.
count of 10, and it'll be removed.
That's a good
Also,
technique.
when you breathe, you expand, and it's taking an example. If the sun were to, if you were sun tanning, and you got angry because you got a sunburn, and you
Right.
hurled a rock at the sun because it burned you, and it retaliated by drawing in its rays, well, it would self-destruct or
Right.
implode. Same scenario, you hurled a rock at the sun, and as a result, it expanded its rays. Well, you'd have to step back when you were shown its brilliance. We have energy sources in our body.
That's a
When we
very cool
expand
analogy.
and show our brilliance, we expand past the little seed that's creating the problem, and we see that we're getting the larger picture.
That's a great analogy. So picture yourself as that. You know, just expand or you can contract. The more you contract, the more you pull it in.
You pull it towards you, and you
Right.
want to expand it
You want
away
to get
from
it,
you.
yeah,
That's
push
right.
everything out. That's
That's right.
wonderful information. Okay, so 2 or 3 things that people should do
Breathe.
every day. Breathe and do some deep breathing throughout the
That's
course
right.
of their day. Okay. Second,
Little vibrational sounds around them.
Like
Let
just
out
humming.
sound. That's good. Get a vibration going. That's
if you
good.
can't sing, hum. Okay. Get
We'll give you
earplugs
the
for your
tips.
neighbors and your
Yeah.
family.
Clear the emotion. Identify it.
Okay.
That's important.
All
What are you
right.
feeling?
All
You know?
right. Get
Can't
in
fix
touch
it.
with it, be quiet,
That's
and
right.
just focus on it and think of the color green with gold around it.
That's it.
That's wonderful. Thanks, Kurt.
You're welcome.
It's great having you.
It's always a
We'll
pleasure.
have you back soon. I'm Deborah Arneson, and we're bringing you Health Exposures. Please join us next week. We're going to be back talking about lots of interesting things that have to do with health, your body, and alternative healing. So until then, take good care of yourself. Good night.
Let me sing, let me pour and no go. Let me reach, let me be. The shows of truth.